Morning, everybody. So, this is your lesson for Friday, April 16th, and we are on Module 4. We are on Lesson 11 today. Our big question for Module 4 is always going to be, how does food nourish us? So that's what all of Module 4 will be talking about. And since we are in a new arc, with our stories Stone Soup and Bone Button Borscht, we have our focusing question is, how can food nourish a community? And then today's small question or content framing question is, what's happening in Bone Button Borscht? So those are our big questions for today's lesson. We are going to recall some story elements from the text Bone Button Borscht today. We're going to identify important details when listening to a read aloud, and we're going to experience with forming opinion statements. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you.
Welcome back, powerful thinkers. I'm Susabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today, you'll need your journal and a pencil. So please pause here to grab what you need and just hit play when you're ready to continue. During our last lesson together, you were able to create opinion statements and say them out loud. Today, we're going to make those opinion statements even stronger by providing evidence that backs up your opinion. How do I form opinion statements? An opinion is what someone thinks about a person or thing. When an opinion is formed and shared, an opinion is sharing what you're thinking about a topic and how you feel about it. Whenever you form an opinion, you'll want to state your opinion clearly and provide a reason for your opinion. You want to tell your audience why you feel or how you think about a topic. In addition to your opinion and your reason, you'll want to provide evidence that supports your opinion and makes it stronger. During our last lesson, we formed opinions about our favorite soup. My favorite soup is chicken noodle soup. I think this because I eat chicken noodle soup more than any other soup. Now it's your turn. Use the sentence frames here to tell me what your favorite soup is and why you think this is your favorite soup. You can practice more than once. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so here is an example. I will give you an example. So just like yesterday, my favorite soup is baked potato soup. So my favorite soup is baked potato soup. I think this because I love potatoes and I love the creaminess of the soup and the cheese, the melty cheese, the crispy bacon that goes on top. Okay, so now I want you to try and tell me what your favorite soup is and why you think it's your favorite soup. Okay, good job.
You probably read this story with your classroom teacher. As we think back on this story, on that cold, snowy night, we can picture the beggar, and he's coming into town with his big coat on that was closed by the help of bone buttons. When he took those buttons off of his coat and asked for a fifth button, something pretty magical happened. He added those buttons to water in a pot, and over time, townspeople added more items to that pot. The townspeople came together and they helped make the borscht and they helped eat the borscht. And long after the beggar had left town, they continued to help each other and to eat and work together. Let's work together to form or create an opinion statement about bone button borscht. Who faces the biggest problem at the beginning of bone button borscht? The beggar or the townspeople? Before we can form an opinion, we need to look at the evidence in this story of who had the biggest problem at the beginning of the story, the beggar or the townspeople. As we read the beginning of this text, on page 2, we learned that the beggar was out in the cold. As we moved on to pages 4 and 5, we learned that the beggar saw that there were no lights or people outside. He knocked, but no one will help him. The townspeople were hiding in their homes. As we continue to read on page 10, we learned that the townspeople are poor and that they do not give to each other anymore. At the beginning of the story, both the beggar and the townspeople had problems. The beggar was out in the cold. There were no lights, no people outside, and even though he knocked, no one would help him. The townspeople were hiding in their homes. They were poor, and they did not give to each other anymore. Who faces the biggest problem at the beginning of bone button borscht? The beggar or the townspeople? Say your opinion statement and reason. Give 2 pieces of evidence. And you have a choice. You can write your opinion statement, reason, and 2 pieces of evidence, or you can record them out loud. Pause here to do your very best work and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so you do not have a choice. What we are going to do on page 180 in your journal today, you are going to write that question. Who faces the biggest problem at the beginning of bone button borscht? The beggar or the townspeople? And then you are going to use that chart that I'm going to put back up on the screen, and you are going to state your opinion. And you need to make sure that you include 2 pieces of evidence as to why that is your opinion. So I'm going to reshare the screen. The question is on the top of the screen, and the chart is there for you to use to write your evidence about your opinion. So here's the question. Remember that you are on page 180 in your journal. So you're going to answer that question. You're going to, first of all, write the question on page 80 and then answer it and use 2 pieces of evidence from this screen. So go ahead and hit pause and complete that work, and then you can hit play. Okay, so here is my example of my opinion writing. I said, the beggar is out in the cold and has no food, but he has a plan for how to get it. The people are poor and do not help each other. It seems like they have been that way for a while. They are selfish, and I think that is the bigger problem. So I think that the townspeople have the bigger problem because they are selfish. They've forgotten how to share with each other. So you're going to make sure that you finish that today and take a picture of it, and you're going to post it up into the Google Slides for me. All right, let's get back to our video.
Pause here to take a stretch break and just hit play when you're ready to continue. You've looked at this painting before. You were able to notice and also to wonder about this painting. Now I'd like you to consider what is happening in this painting. The setting of a text is an important story element, and the setting is also important in a painting. What is the setting for this image, and how can you tell? Please pause here to study the painting closely and to consider these questions. Feel free to chat about it with a learning partner and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so let's talk about the setting of this painting. Where do we think this painting is? Well, it looks like it's inside of a house or inside of a building of some sort. There's a window back here. We discussed the other day how the window looks like there's no glass in it. It looks like the paint is peeling off of the window. There's no glass in the window, so it looks like kind of looks like the wall is crumbling a little bit. So it looks like it might be an old building or an old house. And it's hard to tell what's in the background because it is so dark. The only light that is coming through into the room is the window.
Now I'd really like to focus you in on the foods in the painting. What foods do you recognize? Pause here to study the painting closely and to consider this question. Remember, you can also share what you're seeing with your learning partner. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so what are some foods that you see in this painting? Okay, so we obviously see a bowl of beans, and there's some green onions or scallions. There's some sort of bread or rolls. There's a picture of juice or wine. And then there's something right here. I don't know what it is. I can't tell what that is. Do you guys see anything different?
How would you describe this meal? Pause here to study the painting closely and to think about this question. Share your thinking with a learning partner and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
All right, so how would you describe this meal? Do you think it would be appetizing? Do you think it would be hard to eat? Is it a healthy meal? Is it something that would be nourishing? It's definitely not a fancy meal. It's very basic. He's eating with, bread with his hands and things like that. So it kind of looks like maybe this is a lunch instead of a dinner. It's not quite as fancy. It might just be a quick meal. Maybe he's out working and he came in really quickly just to eat a lunch so he could get back out there. What do you guys think?
Now, I'd like you to focus on the man in the painting. Who do you think this man is? What makes you think so? Please pause here to study the man closely and to think about these two questions. Remember, you can always chat about it with a learning partner. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so what do you think? What do you think this man is? What makes you think that? I personally think that he may be a farmer just because of the type of clothing he's wearing and the hat that he has on. Maybe the hat's to protect his face from the sun. I think that he's not a wealthy farmer. He might be poor. He may even be a peasant from, a long time ago when peasants were more common. His clothes look old fashioned, which makes me think it is from hundreds of years ago. His hat is torn. His clothes look torn a little bit and look old. So that's why I think that maybe he's not a wealthy farmer. What do you guys think? What do you think this man does for a living? And why do you think that? Okay.
The name of this painting is The Bean Eater. What connections can you make between what you see in the painting and the story Bone Button Borscht? Pause here to share your thinking with a learning partner and just hit play when you're ready to continue.
So what kind of connections can you make between this painting and the story Bone Button Borscht? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that he is either a peasant or a beggar, and that was the main character of Bone Button Borscht. He was a beggar, and he was in a town full of peasants.
Powerful thinkers and informed citizens look at evidence closely before they form an opinion. And you practice that today. You worked so hard, and I continue to be so very proud of you. I will see you again soon, my friends.
Okay, so the only thing that you have to work on for me today is you need to make sure that you answer the question on page 180. You are going to have to make sure that you use the chart that is in the video, okay? You can't just wing it. You got to use that chart, use the evidence, okay? And that is, I think, all that we have for class today. It's a pretty fast lesson. Don't forget that I have posted your new vocabulary words, so you will need to start working on those in your vocabulary journal. We will not have the vocabulary quiz though until after TCAPs are over, so it'll be at least 2 weeks. Okay. All right. So let's do our word of the day, our magic word of the day. Today's word is badge. Badge. All right. So I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you later. Bye.